Welcome back, everybody. Awesemo.com NHL. I'm Jay Akari. I am joined by my partner in crime, Josh Harris, on a perfect night to do some Josh stacking. There's a couple teams that I'm eyeing down. I'm sure you are on the same ones. How you doing, Josh?
Pretty good. Hopefully we get some news on this Avs game before I start making my lineups. But pretty interesting slate, especially if that Avs game is we don't get news until right before warmups. Could be a mad scramble. There could be a lot of dead lineups. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, that Avs game is the third one to lock. So we've got the staggered start, although we're not going to have any games really be overlapping, but more than a couple minutes because we've got a 7 Eastern, we've got an 8 Eastern, we've got a 9 Eastern, and we've got a 10 Eastern.
All the time zones covered.
Yeah, so all the time zones covered, but they don't do the 30 minutes. It would be nice if we could get like a 7:30 Eastern or an 8:30 Eastern if you want to watch hockey tonight.
Yeah, they're all going to be at the intermission at the same time. Like the NHL is just awful with their scheduling. They never stagger it, and if they do, it's always Red Wings against the Predators, and it's just an awful game. Makes your eyes bleed. So
yeah, it's not their strong suit, and apparently neither is player safety. If you listen to some of the Vancouver beat writers, with the Colorado situation, they had a positive test when they played 2 nights ago, right? And then we didn't really hear anything, and then it sounded like some of the St. Louis beats didn't know if they were playing, and then they just came out of the tunnel, and one of the beats was like, well, they came out, so I guess they're playing.
Yeah, I guess like one of the St. Louis beats said everyone on the Blues is either vaccinated or offered a vaccination. Mm-hmm. So I guess like that's why they went forward with it, but like that doesn't help the Avs.
Yeah. I mean, just because you're offered one doesn't mean necessarily that you're going to take it. I don't know. People have different ideas. So who knows how many guys are actually vaccinated? Not that it would really matter. Even if they just got vaccinated, you can still get it, obviously. But that's not the show that we're talking about. We're just talking about if the game is going to be on the slate. And so the Avs, they had a positive test 2 days ago. They had another one today. I think it was Grubauer 2 days ago. And then another one today. We don't really know anything else besides that. So I guess we got to just assume that it is going to be on the slate. It's a 4-game main slate on the big sites. It is a showdown slate before that. So we can briefly talk about showdown stuff, but just want to make sure off the bat we talk about our sponsor. Also, welcome to Team Awesemo. A couple people joined. Dave Lofgren. Wow, that seems like a familiar name. Welcome to Team Awesemo. I know he's not probably watching the show. He's getting ready for his NBA show, but he's got all the emojis unlocked and or badges. They're called badges. So if you guys want to join Team Awesemo, feel free. It's just a couple bucks, I think, per month. And you get like the Dr. Ben Raza. There's Laffy's face on there if you want to use those in chat. So during the NBA streams, it's a lot of fun in the YouTube chat. A little bit of status over the other folks in the chat. But sponsor of the show is JockMKT. As you guys know, JockMKT is combining fantasy sports and the stock exchange. Josh and I were just talking a little bit about stocks, a little bit about crypto and stuff with Tyler before the show. So no better sponsor than JockMKT. They allow you to buy and sell shares for players in real time with real money, guaranteed payouts for all your shares at the end of the night. You can use the pregame IPO to pick up shares of your favorite players. You can then buy them, sell them, or hold them during the game based on your own analysis. All you got to do is download the app, the JockMKT app. That's Jock, JockMKT. If you search that on Android or in the iTunes store, you can download the app. And then you can get a free $20 on your first deposit using promo code Awesemo NHL20. Again, deposit bonus. Not a lot of sites are doing that, especially not the bigger ones. If you're looking to add another site, or you're just sick of the other sites that we talk about all the time, I don't blame you. JockMKT is really awesome, and they're giving you a free $20 of play when you sign up using our promo code. All right. Let's talk about, we usually don't talk about these early showdowns, but since we've had so many of them, I'm sure some people do have questions. So we don't necessarily have to talk a ton about the Flames and the Canadiens, but we do have playoffs coming up in 3.5 weeks or so. And so if you want to keep playing through July, through the Stanley Cup Finals, you're going to have to get familiar with the showdown single game format. So thought shorter slate, we can just include it, maybe talk about how we would attack it if you're playing it. I don't know if you are, Josh. I'll probably throw in a couple lineups for this one, but go ahead.
I mean, I'm probably not going to be playing it, but if you are playing it, I'd probably want to attack the Monahan, Mangiapane, Dubé line. Monahan, Dubé are awful defensively. So it's probably going to be the Suzuki, Toffoli, Anderson line that I would want. And I mean, if you want to full stack them in showdown, I think that's fine. You're just going to have to get a little funky with your captain. You're probably going to have to punt with like a Kulak or like one of the cheap or like your boy Lucic, throw him in there for some blocks. But like, I don't know, because like playoff showdown is a bit different because, you know, like certain guys play like sick minutes. Like Jamie Alexiak was playing like 24 minutes in the finals, and you know he's always min-priced and getting those block shots. So I'm actually glad this game's not on the main slate. To be honest with you, this game just, you know, screams some like you have to grab a piece, and you're just gonna end up with massive disappointment at the end of the night with it. So I mean, I prefer the Habs. I know, you know, the Flames need to keep winning to keep their playoff chances alive. So I think, you know, Cliffy and I missed the Giordano narrative street there again, but yeah, I like the Suzuki Toffoli Anderson line, and I like the I mean, I don't really like full stacking anyone on the Flames. If you want to grab a piece like Kachuk or Mangiapane or Giordano, Markstrom I like. He's probably going to see the volume, so it really depends on, you know, salary and your builds and stuff.
Yeah, and I think I like to play both single entry and I like to playing some cash actually for these showdown slates because, you know, for someone like me who doesn't want to spend a ton of time doing cash lineups, I feel like I can come up with a pretty good build with just fewer options, fewer roster spots. And even if I'm like a bad cash player, which I might be, at least I'm not like there's less decisions to make here. So it's better for someone like me that just wants to get a little bit of extra volume, like put it in some of the double ups and stuff. So as like general strategy, I usually like to play at least one goalie in almost all of my lineups. If I'm MMEing, you know, you might get like the 5-4 game with under 30 shots on each side. That's certainly viable, but possible, but not really something I'm banking on night to night. So usually including one goalie and usually just one goalie. Again, you could get like the wide range of outcomes with the 1-0 game and both goalies get there. They both get the save bonus. But I'm usually looking for outcomes that are closer to like the median outcome. So there's going to be 4 to 6 goals. And so I want a goalie in a lot of my lineups. I usually stick to the captains, like the captains that are obvious. Like, so for this game, it'd be like Toffoli. It'd be Gallagher's not playing, but like on the Calgary side, like Kachuk, Lindholm, maybe some of the more expensive defensemen, the goal scoring defensemen, Shea Weber, Petrie, Gio. You would have been in a good spot if you played Gio and Showdown the other night. I think you can captain the goalies for sure, but it feels like sometimes they get overused in the captain spot. Just I haven't done any research on that. It just feels like sometimes you get a favorite that is projected to see like 25 shots and he'll be like, you know, 30% owned in the captain spot. I think that's a little bit of overkill. So just like general strategy points. And then I usually end up punting at least one of the spots, like one of my flex spots on DraftKings. On FanDuel, there's no goalie spot, if I recall. I haven't played a ton over there, but I actually don't like FanDuel's format that much. Just not going to lie and say I play it a bunch. Like,
you could just stop at FanDuel and that sentence. I just don't like FanDuel. How about that?
So I don't know. I go back and forth on them because I really like the price point that they have for the $4 or the $4.44, but like the gameplay is just not as good. We've talked about it like in Slack a bunch recently.
The NHL offerings for FanDuel are mightily lacking. Like for other sports, it's okay. Like it's a different strategy for baseball. It's a different strategy for football. little bit different strategy for basketball, but for hockey, like it's similar, and the prize pools are just not worth it.
Yeah. So, and especially in playoffs, like they don't really jack up the prize pools for playoff hockey. In fact, they actually tame them down, if you guys can believe that. So this is your first year of NHL DFS. Unfortunately, for like the bigger sites, we've probably passed the time where you're getting like the 20Ks to first and all that. There might be a few more coming up here and there. If they're selling tickets to a tournament, you can probably bet on a certain date that they might have like your 20Ks to first. But outside of that, like, you know, and this is kind of the thing that makes NHL good for like casual players or maybe players that can't win at other sports, because you're not going to get like shark infested tournaments in a lot of these. You're not going to get Alex and like Tom, like all the top guys at the site that win a bunch of money playing NBA. They're not going to bother with NHL. So if you're not like a high roller, NHL is perfect to continue to grind out with. So I'm going to keep grinding it out. I know you will be as well, and all through Showdown. So anything else on this Montreal game, or anything you want to talk about with Showdown formats?
Not really. I mean, if you're, you know, I think, you know, Giordano, if you're going that route for captain, I think you're going to have to, and you put a goal in there, you're going to need some punts like Joel Armia or Arturi Lehkonen, something like that. You're going to have to find some cheap guys.
Tyler Mott, you know, if he was on the slate, maybe.
Yeah, you know, there's some cheap guys that, you know, are going to play that, you know, just don't, that actually may do stuff.
Ilya says, what about the Tatar Dano line? Is that playable? Yeah, I think that's definitely playable. I think Ilya is referring to like on the main slate. Like I think the site he plays on has all the games.
Yeah.
I think, yeah. So talk about anything you want if this was included on the main slate.
Yeah, I mean, they're probably going to, I see the lineup builder change. Now it's Tatar, Dano, and Byron, and Toffoli, Suzuki.
Oh, did it? Let me refresh.
Yeah. But anyway, the Tatar Dano line is going to get the Lindholm Gaudreau Kachuk matchup, which isn't great. Like, I think from a shutdown standpoint, I think that Tatar line is good, but from a scoring standpoint, like, I don't know who's going to score, and it's not a great matchup. So, like, from a Montreal standpoint, it's really the Toffoli, Suzuki, Armia going against the Monahan Dubé line, or the Drouin, Kotkaniemi, Anderson going against, you know, they're going to get some Monahan, they're going to get some Backlund, Lucic, Nordstrom. So, you know, you can play the Tatar, Dano, Byron line, because it is a shorter slate, but I think the other two lines for Montreal are where I would want to play if it was on the main slate.
Yeah. I like the Kotkaniemi line a little bit. Kotkaniemi, Drouin, and Anderson, if that's going to be a thing. Nice part about this, if your site does include this one on the main slate, is this will be the first game. You'll be able to see these line combinations that we were a little bit unsure about. But yeah, I think it's a short slate, whether it's 4 games or 5 games or 3 games. Like, I think 5 games is to the point where I'm pretty much considering lines on every single team. Maybe with Colorado at home, you don't need to consider the Kings. So that might be the one exception. But as an MME player, like playing, I think I've got like 82 lineups or whatever the max is in the $15 tonight. I'll be getting pieces of every team. And if it's not forwards, it's defensemen here and there. There's one-off guys you can find on pretty much every team. So on the Calgary side, anything that you would really like?
Outside of Giordano, not really. I mean, if you want to have like a mini of like Monahan, Mangiapane or something like that, but yeah, really it's the defenseman. And I mean, do correlated lineups win all the time in Showdown? No. But do I like to have correlation? Yes. Yeah. So like I'd probably do a full line stack of Montreal, have Giordano in there, and then, you know, maybe a goalie, punt a spot, you know, something like that. But none of these Calgary lines really are doing it for me.
Same here. All right, let's go to the main slate. We've got the Islanders and the Bruins. We've got 2.6 implied totals for both teams here. Basically an even matchup. I think this one went into OT last night. Maybe it's
shootout.
Shootout?
I think.
By the way, speaking of shootout, the Giroux or the Couturier goal was pretty sweet, as was the Gensel goal in the shootout. So, you know, that was actually one of the more fun shootouts that I've seen highlights of. usually they're kind of dusty. So hopefully these games don't go into shootouts and we get some OT goals if it gets to OT.
Like ending a game on a skills competition is just
dumb.
something. Just bring it. They have 3-on-3 for 5 minutes. Why don't they just start with 4-on-4 for 5 minutes? That doesn't work. Go to 3-on-3 for 5 minutes. I mean, it's like it's wide open. They're going to be tired. The game will end.
Exactly. Yeah, I don't think you're going to end up seeing a full period of 3-on-3 and it not ending with a goal on one team or the other. So I really like the 3-on-3. I hate just let them play. Call a timeout. Like have like a break after the 5 minutes, and there's got to be a better way to end games.
We're both wrong. The Bruins won 4-1. So I don't know what.
Okay, I was thinking of Philly and Pittsburgh. I don't know. All the games run together.
These days and slates and all they all blend together. I'm sure the Bruins and Islanders went to a shootout at some point this season. So
yeah, exactly. Yeah, we were probably talking about the January 22nd meeting. Boston hosting the Islanders. Looks like Nihas needs an intervention, according to Mr. Goodman. Nihas wants to play Isles 1. It's going to be Sorokin and the sway man. It was Rask yesterday, and it was Varlamov. So we can pretty much bet it's going to be the other two guys for their respective teams. My boy Taylor Hall got his first goal, first of many for the rest of the season for the Bruins. Bruins look pretty stacked. You got 3 playable lines, I think, even with the low total, but it is a short slate. So how are you kind of parsing through like the top 3 lines on both teams? Because both teams look pretty stacked right now.
Man, like I was kind of on Boston 1 just from an ownership play yesterday because it was a bigger slate. Now this is a back-to-back. They're playing again. They got the backups in. Boston 1's an elite line. Sure, like you can have some if you're 150 lineups. It's just, I don't know, like the Islanders are a good defensive team. They don't take many penalties. But it is like, it's quite possibly could be a 3-game slate. So I think you build more, like I would assume Boston 1 and Colorado 1 are very similarly priced tonight. So if you're scared that Colorado 1's not going to play, you add in a little bit more Boston 1. If Colorado does play, you can switch some of your Boston 1 to Colorado 1. So you're not completely scrambling and can't get any Colorado 1. And if they do play, so I think you can build with Boston 1 since it's the early game. If there's news, hopefully before 7 p.m., you can adjust that to some Colorado. But, elite lines at this ownership, like 13% on a 4-gamer. If Colorado does get canceled, obviously that's going to go up. But I think, at that ownership on a short slate, I think you have to consider it. They're going to get the Barzal, Eberle, Zajac matchup, which, they don't have a very, very big sample, but I would imagine it benefits Boston 1. Well, not benefits. It's a slight advantage to Boston 1, which takes me off the Barzal, Eberle, Zajac line. Say whatever you will, but I do not want to go into that matchup. It doesn't matter who you are unless it was like the McKinnon line or even like Vegas 1. Maybe I'll take a little bit of stand, but like other than that, I wouldn't go after Boston 1. Start going down the lineups here. Bruins 2. Your boy Hall had a goal.
Mm-hmm.
They're going into Nelson Bailey Beauvillier, who usually takes the top competition when they're at home. So like, I know it's a short slate and we have to consider it, but I'm kind of off the Boston depth tonight. If you want to go to Coyle, DeBrusque, Richie, okay. I mean, but like in 1 to 3, like I don't want to go against a good defensive team on a back-to-back. So like kind of takes me out on Islanders 2 as well. That line has been okay. If you want to do like a Wallstrom, JG Pajot, Palmieri stack, I think that's fine. Like we were talking about, me and Cliffy, how like with Boston 1 off the ice, their defensive numbers kind of fall off the cliff. So I think you can have a little bit of the Islanders depth. This game is just, it's tough because they're both good. They're on a back-to-back. There's 3 other games that you want a piece of. So really, like I like Boston 1. I like Islanders 3. If you want to have some Islanders 2, some Boston 2, Boston 3, and MME, sure. I think that's fine. But this game just screams MME for me.
Yeah. So like I think there is a big gap between Colorado 1 and Boston 1 for me. And it's reflected in the ownership. Like we've got Colorado 1 at basically 2.5, 3 times the ownership of Boston one. That feels about right for me in this spot. It feels like more of a like smash spot, as they say, on the Colorado side against a Kings team where I don't even know if they're going to see a lot of Kopitar.
I don't even know if it matters. That Kopitar line got ran over the other night.
Yeah. And so like Boston one's perfectly fine. Like if I'll make quick swaps. Like if we find out at let's say 6:50 Eastern time that Colorado game's in jeopardy, like I'll move a bunch of my ownership over to Boston one. I'll make a bunch of new lineups and cross out Colorado one. So that would be the case in which I think I get a ton of Boston one. But right now, it's just hard for me to see them competing with Colorado here, even with the gap in the ownership. So another thing that I don't think I mentioned this off the top, but I was doing a quick Twitter search. I did see Josh Bailey only played a few minutes last night. He left with an injury. I saw something else about both Clutterbuck and Pajot. So I haven't heard anything from beat writers. I don't think the Islanders skated this morning because it is a back-to-back.
Yeah.
So you could see some big pieces potentially missing for the Islanders.
I mean, if that's the case, like Pajot's out and Bailey's out, I think that brings Boston 2 and Boston 3 into play, and that would take me off the Islanders completely.
Yeah, and we're showing low ownership for both Boston 2 and Boston 3. So even though I'm a Hall lover, I think objectively it is a pretty good spot should one or a couple of those guys be missing, because that would weaken the second line. It would weaken the third line defensively if Pajot or Bailey were to miss. And then on the Islanders side, I was joking earlier in chat when I said, like, you don't need to play the Islanders one, but looking at what Boston did last night, they didn't really play Boston one that much against them. Yeah. And so short slate, almost no ownership. I love Barzal as a player. They played good minutes last night. Barzal played over 20 minutes last night. So if he's going to play like 18 to 20 some of these games and not 15 like he had a couple times, I think you can get to a little bit of Boston one. I'm certainly going to probably be over the field on them, even though it is a really tough matchup in Boston. But they played a lot against the Lazar, Corrali, Wagner line, which is a fine fourth line. But I think if they go up against Barzal, they're going to have some issues more often than not. So
okay. Look what you're doing. You're enabling Niehaus. Like he's super excited. He's going to lock in Islanders one at the end of at 7:09 p.m. Eastern. He's going to tag you in chat. Islanders one's not getting there. I need help.
Tradition is old as time. How do I get rid of the Islanders touting? Hey, here's the thing. Short slates, you come on here, you just tout everything. And then the social media guys, after the slate has ended, they just show the best moments. So it's easy game there. Riley, 3,300. He's been played a bunch. It seems like the Boston coach, I think Cassidy is his name. I'm really bad with coaches' names. Yeah. He really likes Riley. I saw a quote saying that, like, man, what a find it is for us, or something along those lines. They obviously have confidence in him already. He's on the top power play, and he's 3,300. That being said, probably only going to play him with Boston stacks because I think he could be pretty popular as a one-off, and that's not really something I'm looking to do, play like the chalky, cheap one-off that everyone else is going to have. So like him in Boston stacks, don't really love him as much as a one-off.
Play devil's advocate on Riley here. Like on a short slate, you have to get the defenseman right. And if it's 3,300 Riley goes off, you are in trouble if you faded him.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, I don't know.
He's not Grizzlock. Like Grizzlock's not a good player. Like Riley actually shoots the puck.
Is he shooting? I mean, I know
it's a top bonus the first game. He was
okay.
So.
All right, maybe that's a lazy take by me. I'll revisit that.
No, I'm just playing devil's advocate. Like I don't know if I'm going to play Riley. Like, but like I'm just saying like normally on short slates, like you get these expensive random D-men that go off that are low owned and you're just completely crushed in MME. But like if you get a cheap guy, 3,300 power play of one, granted it's not a great spot, but if he like just say he gets an assist in the shot bonus, like at that price is going to be tough to overcome.
Yep. That's a good point. Maybe I should at least have some one-offs or not like group that out. because that's what I've been doing on the bigger slates with him in his first couple of games. On the Islanders side, Pulock, Leddy, Pelech, Mayfield, any of these guys you want pieces of?
I mean, not really. If you're doing some, Islanders power play stuff and MME, I think, Pulock is fine. This is a tough matchup. Pulock 4,700 doesn't really interest me too much. Like, it's hard to click in Nick Leddy. I think Pelech is an okay point and one off on a 4-gamer. I wish Noah Dobson played more minutes and was on the power play at 2,600, but since he came back from injury, his minutes have been down. So I'm kind of going to be off the Islanders defenseman tonight.
Yeah, that's fair enough. It'll just be if they end up last guy in my lineup, that's fine. I don't think I'm playing Leddy without Islanders 2 or Islanders 3 stack, and that is probably not going to be too many lineups, even with 80 plus in my portfolio tonight. Let's go to the Sharks and the Wild. 2.5 implied total for the Sharks, 3.4 for the Wild. Marty Jones, Cam Talbot, your expected goalies. This one, maybe one of the more interesting games. I mean, it's not hugely lopsided. Minnesota are decent favorites, but 2.5 implied total for the Sharks. Minnesota, great shutdown line they've got with Eriksson, Greenway, Foligno. So they're probably going to wipe out Couture, Kane, and Balcers. Like, not really looking to do that. I know it's a short slate, but it looks like they're getting close to 10% ownership on San Jose 1. I try not to cross teams out. I try not to cross lines out, especially on short slates, but I might legitimately cross out San Jose 1 because I'm pretty confident that's going to be the matchup. And if they run over the Eriksson line or donk a couple goals, whatever, I'll just move it on to the next slate. But San Jose 2, what are you thinking about them? Those are your boys. Yeah.
Well, first of all, outside of like McKinnon, like Colorado 1, Boston 1, I'm not going into the Eriksson matchup at all. Like, for some reason, whatever it is, that they're one of the best lines in the NHL over the past 2 seasons defensively. Like, it's not close. Like, their expected goals against is like under 1. Like, it's just elite line. So that takes me completely off the Couture, Kane, Balcers line. Yeah, I do like the Sharks' second line, especially if they're going to get the Rask, Kaprizov, Zuccarello matchup. To beat a dead horse like Kaprizov and Zuccarello, very good offensively, very bad defensively. I think they can be had. I do like that Sharks' second line. Again, I do like that Kaprizov, Zuccarello line for what they do offensively. 1, because the Sharks are terrible. 2, Marty Jones is terrible. 3, he might be hurt still, and it could be, Joseph Kona's, coroner's office. I don't know what his name is. Either way, he's going to be dead, and the Wild will score some goals. And so, I like that Wild top line. And I also like that Wild third line, Fiala, Hartman, Johansson, especially if, they're getting the depth of the Sharks. They could get, a Patty Marleau line, and that's just brutal. Obviously, you look at their ownership, and people are not glossing over them. They're going to be chalky because they are cheap, and, Fiala is a DFS darling, and it is not the Avs. So I think that third line is going to be popular. But, I really like the Wild top line. I really like the Wild third line. I like the Sharks second line. And if, Eriksson is staple to the Couture line, which we all expect them to, they're going to see a good amount of minutes. So even though they don't correlate on the power play, they are cheap. They let you get in, some Colorado. I think you can just from a minute standpoint, I think you can take a stab on that Eriksson line.
Yeah. I think pretty much anything on Minnesota is in play. Like, Bonino played 17 minutes last game. I don't remember if it was a game where they just had a bunch of power plays, so he got a bunch of minutes there. Parisi played 12 minutes. I don't think you need to go crazy on the Minnesota fourth line, but if you needed like a min salary one-off, there's a bunch of guys in the Wild. There's Marcus Johansson. There's, I wouldn't one-off Rask. I probably wouldn't one-off Johansson too often, but like if you want to donk the Parisi goal or Bonino's on the top power play with Fiala and Kaprizov and Rask. So there's a bunch of options for like one-off guys if you're not just doing the cookie cutter 3-3 build, which I'm going to try to get away from a little bit tonight. What's chat saying? I'm sure they're just
first Cliffy he says making some tea, walking. All I hear is Josh talking about how bad Martin Jones is healing, which is true. Secondly, Brian said new Sharks lines, by the way. Kane, Couture, LeBanc, Balceres, Hurdle, Marlowe. Good God. Sorensen, Gambrell, Meyer. Woo!
Where are we seeing that? I believe him.
Yeah, maybe one of the beats.
One of the beats, yeah.
Just brought it out now. But, like, if that's the case, like...
that's terrible. Well, okay. I think that's fine. Like, if you wanted to go... If you're looking to get deep and just go where Timo is, because Timo is going to avoid and Hurdle, like maybe as one-off guys. But, yeah, I wanted to play those guys together.
But if if our boy Patty Marlowe is up on San Jose too, like the Kaprizov line is just gonna run them. Like Marlowe is just, I don't know. He's like one of those smart cars you see on the highway. Like people just going past him like with nothing. So like I think that puts Kaprizov back into play like more.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like, and Brian said it's on left wing lock. Okay. So I would imagine a beat did put it out like Curtis Pashelka or one of those guys.
Yikes. All right. Dang, I really wanted to play San Jose too. I'm assuming that just came out, that news. But yeah. Man, so where's Donato going to be? Is he line 4?
Yeah.
On line 3? What the?
I mean, okay, so let's just we'll reset here. So like we're assuming the top line is Couture, Kane, LeBanc. They're going to get the Eriksson Ek matchup.
Yep,
they're out. Okay, so if it is Hurdle and then what is it? Hurdle, Balceres, and Marlowe, like they're going to get the Kaprizov line, and I think you still can have like a Hurdle and Balceres mini, just because the Zuccarello Kaprizov line isn't great defensively. However, with Marlowe in there, their defensive numbers just completely go into the tank. So I think full stacking that Minnesota top line, Rask, Kaprizov, Zuccarello is perfectly fine. They're cheap. Any line with Marlowe on, I want to attack them defensively. So with Meyer down in the third line, they're going to avoid, for sure avoid the Eriksson Ek. So I think like if you still wanted to go like a Hurdle Meyer 2-man, just for Hurdle Meyer Balceres for the power play correlation, I think you can do that. But yeah, what was it, like Minnesota 1, Minnesota 3 for sure, Minnesota 2 if they're staple to Couture, which we expect, and then like Sharks 1 we're out. Hurdle's still okay. If you want to do like a Hurdle Balceres, I think that's fine. I'm out on Marlowe. If you want to add in Meyer, I think that's okay too.
Yep. All right. Yeah, I think you did a much better job of breaking that down for both of us the second time once we got the new lines. Minnesota defensemen are always a mess. I mean, just draw a name out of the hat between Spurgeon. Actually, it's probably just Spurgeon and Dumba. If you're just drawing names, like those are your two best options. Those are the two most owned options. You've got Suter and Brodin for less. Soucy's min salary. Maybe you could get to another min salary player on Minnesota there. And then on the Shark side, Burns and Karlsson are both playing huge minutes these last few games. I want to play Burns more than Karlsson, but Karlsson's 4,600, and I think he played 28 minutes last game. Like, it's just absurd.
Yeah, unfortunately, they've been kind of empty minutes, which sucks. Because like, for those minutes, I mean, the prices are coming down. Like, I guess you could play Karlsson at 4,600. If Burns was 4,600, I think I'd play him. Like 5,900, I still don't want to play him just because his shot rates and his peripherals have gone down in the tank. Like, I'd much rather play Spurgeon at 4,400, especially if you're playing that top line. For the Wild, I think Spurgeon, like, we don't really play the Wild for the power play, but the Sharks are just so bad defensively that, Spurgeon at 4,400 is a great play. Dumba at 3,500 is a great play. Like, I'd rather go to the Wild here. If you are, I guess from like a Shark standpoint, if you want to play Burns, that makes sense over Karlsson since, we're really not going to be on the Sharks top line, but I'm not really sure. Like, I want to do that.
Yeah. All right. Let's move it on. Actually, before we get to our next game, Josh, you have been known to like a little bit of MMA, a little UFC. Have you heard of this UFC 261 card that's coming up?
I have heard about it, but tell me more.
Yeah. It's apparently just a massive card. Usman versus Masvidal. I actually know those two guys and what they look like. I actually know Masvidal. Well, he's a whole nother story outside of the rink. I suppose. If you want to go look him up, and you can find a nice little rabbit hole if you hear what he's about.
He fought in what's his name? Kimbo Slice Backyard Fighting.
Yeah.
On YouTube.
He's a Miami guy, right? He grew up in Miami with all those guys. Anyways, UFC 261, oddly enough, is the promo that we've got going on. You get 50% off your first month of Awesemo Plus MMA. That covers UFC 261. If you sign up right now, it is valid until Sunday, April 24th. So it's a massive card. There's going to be huge contests. You're going to want to get projections. You're going to want to get ownership, definitely. And if you like the top stacks tool for the other sports, top fighters tool is the same thing. So I kind of equate it to like golf or like the showdown top plays for NFL, because it's more like singular players, their odds of being the best, their odds of scoring 100 plus points. It's a very, very useful tool, whether you're hand building or using an optimizer, using Fantasy Cruncher or the lineup builder. So you'll also get access to that with this promo code UFC 261. And then, last but not least, premium Slack. Go check out the MMA Slack. Josh pops his head in there every once in a while. You can get into the hockey chat as well. If you want to just play MMA, but you like playing hockey and talking a little bit of hockey, Tyler put it up on the screen for you guys so you can see this, or at least see it on delay. But anyways, UFC 261, no better time to sign up than today, but you do have until next Saturday to think about it and take advantage. For today, for free premium content, we've got NHL rankings, MLB rankings, and NBA rankings. So whatever sport you're playing tonight, we've got free rankings for you. If you want to give those a look, see who Alex's top plays, top values are, and go from there. All right. LA, Colorado, maybe the best game of the slate, depending on how you look at it. Could be a game not even on the slate. So just to recap here, Colorado had a positive COVID test today. We think this game is going to be played. This was the protocol they had 2 nights ago. The exact same thing happened. They had a positive test early. They ended up playing the game. No problems. Obviously, another positive today. Who knows if there's going to be an outbreak or what. But this is the best spot of the night. 2.2 implied total for the Kings. 3.7 for the Avs. Highest implied total. Probably going to be Cal Peterson and Dubnyk should this one get played. Colorado, just onslaught here. Am I wrong?
No, you're not wrong. So, man, the Vegas top line the other night just absolutely ran over the Kopitar line, and they're getting another elite line tonight. Now, we don't know who the COVID positive is. It could be anyone. So you're going to have to pay attention to that news. And it's a 9 p.m. Eastern game, which means usually you have the teams have up until 90 minutes before to declare the positive. So hopefully we get some news before 7:30. Usually it comes out around 5:30 p.m. Eastern. Got to see who it is. There's still a question mark on Donskoy being questionable. So we'll just assume, what we have. All we have is what we know, and that top line is going against – bless you. The top line is going against the Kopitar line. I really like Colorado 1. Shocker. That Kopitar matchup isn't what it was a few years ago. So one thing that I hope – and listen, I say that with everyone's going to be okay and everyone's going to be healthy. But what I hope is we don't get news on this game until as late as possible. So hopefully it takes people off the Avs a little bit, because currently they're going to be the highest owned stack of the night. So anytime we can get Avs at a little bit lower ownership, we take that edge anytime we can get it. But I do really like the Avs top line. I also really like the Avs second line, Saad Kadri Burakovsky. They'll be way lower owned than Colorado 1. They're going to get, the depth of the Kings, which falls off a cliff after the Kopitar line, and you don't get the Doughty pairing. So you can definitely take advantage of that there. If Donskoy is in, I also like Colorado 3. I think there is a lot of Josh stack possibilities for the Avs tonight. Onslaughts, power play stacks, whatever you want to do. 3-mans, 4-mans, 5-mans, 6-mans. Load them in. On the King side, I'm kind of off full stacking that top line. And I'm really off full stacking any of the lines. I think there's the Avs are very good defensively. Dubnyk isn't very good, so there are a couple pieces that maybe I would take. I'd maybe do like a Kempe, Trevor Moore duo because they're on the same power play. I'd one off an Anthony Ciu because he's on the top power play and set 2,700. But other than that, I don't think I'll be full stacking anything on the Kings.
Same here. Probably going to try to stick away from the full stacks. I guess if you wanted to, you could filler whoever you want. If they get one goal, they might end up in a winning lineup, even a winning lineup with Colorado won. So that's fine if you wanted to throw them in some. Basically I'm fine just doing whatever on a 4-gamer or a 3-gamer if this ends up being. But you're just going to want to watch out for the news. I love Colorado 1. I like Colorado 2. I'm a little worried about their minutes. Kadri not on the top power play. Don't get fooled by the second power play correlation. I know you've talked about that. Like Colorado just rides their top power play as they should. So it's very important if you're on the top power play. Secondary power play time is virtually non-existent for them. They might get 20 seconds, 30 seconds at most. Donskoy expected to return tonight or potentially could return tonight. You can do a lot of like 4 or 5 man power play or Josh stacks with your forwards. Throw in a defenseman, make it a true Josh stack. You could throw in Dubnyk if you'd like. 8,300 is a little bit expensive for Devin D, but
true Josh stack. You got to throw in Dubnyk, which is not great, Bob, but I think you do it.
Yeah, this one could get out of hand very quick. So who knows? I mean, if McKinnon's out, this changes a ton. If it's, I don't even want to name anyone. But
I named someone the other night, and he had a 3-point night. Liam O'Connor. I was like, if it's Liam O'Connor, it's not very DFS relevant.
Oh, Liam O'Brien.
Yeah, Liam O'Brien, yeah.
He played like 6 minutes that game, too. Like, he was just got on the ice, get an assist, get a goal. Like,
it's uncanny our abilities to just anti-mush people.
Yeah. Landeskog only 5,800 on FD. Yeah, who knows what they got going on over there. Defensemen, I think you can play any of the top 4 defensemen with pretty much any of the Colorado lines. Taves and Girard probably going to see the most time against Kopitar, so maybe not like the best options for tonight, but they're going to play a ton of minutes, so whatever, that's fine. I'm going to focus more on Makar and Graves as my secondary Colorado defenseman. Anything else in this game?
Not really. I'm kind of off the defenseman on the Kings. Sean Walker is too expensive. Mikey Anderson plays empty minutes. If you want to, Oli Mata at min price, like if you're really dumpster diving, but I think there's better options down there anyway. And then if it is Cal Peterson, if that game does play, maybe I'll take a stab in MMA on him and hope, the Avs have 50 shots and he doesn't let in 12.
Yeah, I mean, if you're playing a one-off goalie tonight, this would be better if it was like the last game of the slate and there was like a bunch of games locking early, then you'd know a little bit more. But I could see myself swapping to some Cal Peterson if my lineups are close to dead or I don't have the absolute nuts and there's people in front of me with the absolute nuts going into this game. Let's say if like Boston 1 goes completely crazy, maybe you swap some Cal Peterson because it is a really high upside spot if he can pull out a win here. We've seen him do it a couple times, I think, to Colorado this season.
We've seen Colorado lay an egg against the Coyotes a couple times. Kemper had like a 44 save shutout.
Yeah, just nuts. Weird stuff happens, so it's not a slam dunk, but looks pretty good here for the Avs. All 3 of their lines. Probably not digging down to the 4th line. I don't think you really need to do that. All right. I see there's almost 100 people watching us today. If you guys could, as always, I see a bunch of you already like the show. Make sure you go and watch all of our other shows. And the best way to do that is by subscribing to the channel. We're pushing out a bunch of free content every day. The producers are letting us know, they're being workhorses behind the scenes. They're getting 6-7 shows some of these days. And we want you to subscribe because that's going to help us grow the channel. It's going to help us buy more producers. So these guys can get a break. They're doing a ton of work and we want to continue offering free content. So subscribing is the number one way you can help us if you're not ready to get a premium subscription to Awesemo.com just yet. What's up?
Oh no, Avery's popping his head in.
I don't know. I don't know if people can see that on the screen. I think Tyler might have it cropped out. So pretty good looking hair. I will say that for the people that can't see it.
I've seen the hair before.
There's his first appearance. All right. Anything else that we need to talk about before we get into the last game? I think we're good. I talked about UFC 261, talked about Jock Market, promo code Awesemo NHL 20. So instead of selling you guys some more stuff, we'll just get to the last game. We've got the Golden Knights and the Anaheim Ducks, 3.4 implied total for the Knights, 2.1 for the Ducks. Leonard and Anthony Stolarz, I've got in. I saw FC had Gibson confirmed. Now, I don't think that's correct. I didn't see it on any sites. I thought he was hurt.
He's day-to-day. So
he's day-to-day? Okay. So maybe just they had a glitch there or something. I've got Stolarz in. We'll see who it is. Another high upside spot. Like we just talked about with Cal Peterson. Same applies to the Ducks. But the Ducks are pretty brutal. That being said, they just took was 2 or 3 in a row against the lowly Sharks in San Jose. So they can win games. That being said, I don't really have anything to play on the Ducks side. Do you have anything that you want to talk about on the Ducks first, or is this just a Golden Knights game?
I mean, on the Ducks side, I don't think I'll full stack anybody. Like these lines, their time on ice isn't great. Maybe I'll have like a one-off Comtois, a one-off Silfverberg, maybe a Troy Terry. He's been playing good, and he's only 2,800. But like time on ice is a concern. This is a really tough matchup. I will say, Cliffy did mention on the show the other day that Vegas is towards the bottom of expected goals against in the past, 3-4 weeks. So they haven't been very good defensively.
Oh boy.
Cliffy just said the Kings game got postponed.
Yep. That's what I'm seeing right now.
Yeah. So never going to get the 15 minutes of our lives back, but but it's actually good that we got it now, because I think a lot of that ownership is going to go to Boston, and I think a lot of that ownership is going to go to the Vegas top line. The Vegas top line is way cheaper than Boston. They get a very good matchup. They get a way better matchup than the Islanders. I think there's Josh Stack opportunities here for Vegas. I think you do the top line with Marchessault and Theodore and add in like a Riley Smith. You can add in a Matthias Janmark. You can add in a Tuck. So I honestly think all 3 lines are in play for Vegas tonight. Vegas one's my favorite. Matchups don't matter to me in this game from a Vegas perspective. Vegas 2 kind of busted the other night. We were on them, but I think, they're DFS darlings. They're way cheaper than Vegas 1, so they'll be owned. I think, they're a fine play. I prefer Vegas 1 tonight. And this third line of Matthias Janmark, Tomas Nosek, and Alex Tuck is interesting. Like, Nosek has been on fire recently. Yeah. Tuck is good, and Janmark coming over there, he gives stability to the bottom 6. So, that third line in a high ownership game is going to get some pretty low ownership. So I think you go to that third line here. And if you want to get different with, a little bit different with Vegas, I think you can use 2 of the D-men. You can use like Theodore and Pietrangelo, or Martinez and Theodore, Martinez and Pietrangelo, something like that. I think there's ways to get different in this game, especially now that Colorado's postponed. I think a lot of ownership is going to move to this game more than it would Boston 1. So I think you're going to have to get a little bit different with Vegas.
Yeah, it's too bad the news didn't come a little bit later. I actually was trying to figure out what happened. Why they decided to postpone. I'm assuming they had more than one positive from this morning.
Or like JT Miller drove down to Colorado and started banging on Bettman's door.
Yeah, they postponed their next 3 games. So it sounds like
they definitely had more positives.
Yeah, more positives. All right, good thing that they played the other night, I suppose. Way to go, NHL. Vegas 1. I think one of my favorite stacks. I will say, maybe not the best matchup in the world for them. I think they're going to get Henry, Heinen, and Silfverberg If I'm wrong about that, then I love Vegas one even more. But Henrik Heinen and Silfverberg has actually been pretty good at 5-on-5, at least limiting opponents. They haven't been great at shot generation. But if that's their matchup, maybe not the best of the best matchups, but they just crushed the Kopitar line the other night, like you said. So Vegas one pretty much matchup proof. And I think Vegas 2 is probably in that realm, at least. A little bit cheaper, a little bit actually less popular, which is surprising to see, but that'll come up. I think you can fit Boston 1 with Vegas 2 if you double punt your defenseman. Anyways, that's not important. Probably won't play a lot of those combos. I love the call on Vegas 3 since Colorado 3 isn't a thing anymore. My Highstone third line is probably going to be Vegas 3 on this slate. And then I think if you're going to the Ducks side, since I think Henrik Heinen and Silfverberg is going to see the Pacioretty Stone line, I'd be looking a little bit at the Getzlaf, Troy Terry, and Max Jones trio. And then I think if you want to go Comtois, Raquel, 2-man, that might be something that I get to a fair amount, because I am going to end up running a lot of 3-2s tonight because it's a 3-game slate instead of a 4-game slate, which changes a bunch. So knock out 25% of the games. Got to adjust your strategy. Anything else that we need to talk about on this slate, like how else Colorado and LA being postponed affects the slate?
Yeah, I mean, I think majority of the ownership is going to go to the Vegas side here. Maybe it goes, I don't know, maybe Minnesota grabs some, maybe the Sharks grab some. I'm not sure. Just quickly on the Ducks, like I think you can punt Hayden Fleury. I think he's out of Carolina now. He's actually seeing some minutes. So
block shot guy.
Yeah. Like I liked him. I've always liked him. He just never got a chance really to get more than 11 minutes a night. If he gets, 15, 16, 17 minutes consistently, I think he's going to be a good DFS player. I think now that Colorado's off and the Sharks jumble their lines, I think you can get a little creative with the Sharks here, just to be a little bit different. I think you can stick with Hertl-Meyer, do some of those weird combos like I almost uttered the words maybe play Patrick Marleau. I threw up in my mouth a little bit before I said it, but I think a lot more comes onto the table now. There's a lot more in play because Colorado 1 was just going to soak 40%. Now it's going to disperse elsewhere. And unless you're super high in Boston 1, there isn't a super expensive spot. Yeah, Vegas 1's expensive, but I think, you're going to have to get creative with some stuff to be unique, especially if you're using Vegas. So it even brings Patty Marleau into play.
All right. Before we tout Patty Marleau again, we need to wrap up the stream. But one other note is that Gibson is expected to start for the Ducks tonight. So there's your upside goalie. Vegas is a good spot, but get an elite goalie in an elite spot for him to get 40+ saves, which seems pretty realistic tonight. So as good of a one-off guy as you can get tonight with no Cal Pete on the slate. Going to have some more interest in Boston 1. Definitely going to have a lot of interest in Vegas. And then in my non-Vegas lineups, I'm not going to try to go crazy correlating goalies tonight. I'm probably going to have a bunch of Gibson one-offs as a hedge there. I think it's a really high upside spot on both sides. And if you are going to Gibson, like I mentioned, there are a couple 2-mans, Getzlaf, Terry, Comtois, Raquel, that I'm interested in on the Duck side. And I second the Hayden Fleury call. I think he saw almost 19 minutes in his first game. So that is a pretty good sign for him going forward. Good block shot spot for Fleury as well. Same thing with Manson.
Yeah, I think leaving salary on the table is also a good way to get different. I think power play stacking or, Josh stacking may not be. I don't know how popular Josh stacks are. And I obviously didn't create it. I just put the name to it. But they may be popular tonight. I think, to get a little bit different, you leave some salary on the table, you do some funky things, especially if you're scared of dupes.
All right. Tip-off show coming on right after this with Kayla, Spags, and Ben. If you're looking to play some NBA, we've got Live Before Lock as well. That's coming on for MLB. We'll have an NBA Live Before Lock a little bit later, so you guys will not be cheated out of your free content. Thanks for watching. It'll be Cliffy and I breaking it down tomorrow, same time. Good luck until then.